Natty, and it's unfortunate because we've had this discussion before, and the one thing about doing this show and doing it for 16 years, and one thing that I always acknowledge is about that every time that you step into the ring, you put your bodies, your health, your life on the line for our entertainment. The ultimate respect for anybody that performs inside that squared circle. And unfortunately, again, in the short time that you've been on the air, we have another injury, and that's Liv Morgan. And Liv Morgan, especially this last year, Natty, has done so much for herself, but so much for the WWE. It's always unfortunate to have an injury, but I know she was building towards a big story that was going to head to SummerSlam, and it was really hard to see her get injured Monday night on Raw.
And that's the thing about what we do is that it's it's just every day, is exciting, and we're always in a different city, state, country, continent doing this thing that we love, which is performing, but it comes with, its own set of risks. And I say to people, like, even just stepping your foot into the ring, it's dangerous. People, I remember Sami Zayn, he was just lifting up his arm, like doing his taunt, before a match. And Brett was actually in the ring for that match. I can't remember who Sammy was facing, but Brett was in the ring and Sammy was doing this taunt and he just lifted his arm up too hard and, you know, had a shoulder injury. So the thing is that yeah, what we do is very high risk and it can happen off of even the smallest things. So when people are watching Liv and that injury from Monday and they're saying like you're watching it, it's a lot of times usually injuries don't happen on a lot of the big things. They happen on small things. And it's just everything we do is very high risk, which is why we train so hard. It's why we prepare so much. But even just being the most trained and the most seasoned and the most prepared, sometimes shit just happens.
Yep.
And this is a case of that because Liv, I can attest to the fact that Liv does train hard. She works out hard. Her training with me, she pours her heart and soul into her training whenever she's trained with us in the dungeon. To the point where like you just feel her passion so much, but it's just off of something so small. Yet here's the thing, and I was talking to TJ about this because TJ is a producer in WWE. Whatever is going on with Liv, whether it's a small injury or a bigger injury or something that requires surgery, I don't honestly know the particulars, but I do know one thing. That is a woman that always lands on her feet and she always takes whatever it is that she's given and she makes it better. So whatever it is that's going on with her, she is going to take it and she is going to run with it and she is going to make it gold and she's going to come back stronger than she's ever been. So for that, I am excited for her because sometimes it just takes something like this to ignite a fire to start an even bigger story.
Yeah, and we've seen that in the case in the WWE many times. The one thing, and I'm just talking about small injuries that everyday people have, there's always going to be a fear factor. Like for you, Natty, and any injuries that if you have had or injuries that you know of, like how difficult is it to come back? Because I got to think that's got to be in the back of your mind, right? The first time you step back into a ring, that the last time you were in a ring you got injured. Like is how difficult is it to just get over that and move on?
It's extremely difficult. And that's why there's truthfully only a handful of people on the planet that can do what we do because it's not just physical. It's also about mental strength. And that's what, there's incredible athletes all over the world in every corner of the world that are amazing in so many different sports. But why professional wrestlers and performers and entertainers at the very highest level, why they are so special is because they have something that helps them push through the mental aspect of it. And I've seen it firsthand. And Liv's been through she's been through this before. Rey Mysterio has been through this before. Randy Orton has been through this before. I have been through this before. Rhea Ripley, arguably one of the biggest female stars, one of the biggest stars in WWE today. She has been through this before, and we always come out stronger. I have yet to see a person go through an injury, a big one, small one, whatever in between, that hasn't come out stronger from it. It just sucks though because us girls, us women in WWE, right now we're so excited for Evolution because we haven't had Evolution since 2018. So everybody's just like it's just such a cool feeling, especially in the locker room. We're all just excited. We're all just like, okay, what are the matches and will we be on the card and how is it shaping up? And I know Liv was especially excited for that. But it doesn't, the great thing about WWE is that we're an ever turning, ever evolving wheel. So there's so much going on and it's never ending. We're all year round. So when Liv feels strong, when she's ready to come back, you know that there's going to be big, big, big events. I mean, it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
It used to be like back in the day, it was like everybody would just get so excited excited for everything, but WrestleMania was our big event. Now we're doing shows all the time in stadiums and overseas. Everything is sold out. So, I mean, I will say we've gotten really, I don't want to say spoiled, but every show feels like a really, really big event. And she'll be back for a big event stronger than ever. Like, I have no doubt about that with Liv. No doubt.
And the fans are going to be happy to see her too. Like Liv is one of those characters, whether she's, a baby face or a heel, the fans are just attracted to her. They want to cheer her. And I think when she does come back, it's going to be tremendous.
And
And you
it
meant
might spark an even cooler story too.
Yes, yes. But she was building something, that I think was going to be very strong for Evolution. And speaking of Evolution, like you said, it's been a while since we had it. It's coming up on July 13th on that Sunday. This is going to be tremendous. In Atlanta, this is going to be something extremely special. Like you said, there have been a lot of landmark events, and we're getting a lot of stadium shows, and SummerSlam in early August is definitely an example of that. 2 nights at MetLife Stadium, but July 13th is going to be a very special date for the WWE.
It's special for so many reasons because it's not just about honoring the women that are currently competing. I believe that I don't know all the particulars, but I believe that a trend that I'm seeing, especially with a lot of our PLEs, is that we're inviting back legends to be a
Yep.
part of things. So, and I don't know who is going to be at Evolution, but I feel very strongly that it's going to be about the past, present, and future of women's wrestling. And there's so many people, so many women that have really paved the way for us to be where we're at right now.
Yep.
There's so many women that I would have had nothing had women like Jazz and Molly Holly and Victoria and Trish Stratus and Lita and Beth Phoenix. Just to name a few, Mickey James, Melina, Michelle, Layla. We wouldn't have had the stuff that we have today if we didn't have those women helping build a foundation. Wendy Richter, Sensational Sherry, Miss Elizabeth. I know I'm going down a bunch of names, but like, and some of them, obviously aren't here today, but there's just so many women that laid down the foundation. So I'm excited about seeing them honored because it's just, we look at so many legends that have done stuff for us. And it's like, I think the company now more than ever is saying, hey, we recognize that you did this.
Yep.
We recognize that I love that. I saw Lalani Kai at main event, Saturday night's main event in Tampa last month. And she was so excited. She was carrying around her championship and she just felt like she was one of the girls again. And I just love that WWE, she said to me, she goes, I haven't felt this way in years. And I think she had a conversation with Triple H and she was just like on cloud nine and she was excited about contributing and he made her feel like she mattered and she does matter. And, I hope to see her at Evolution too.
Yeah, and also, in the world of pro wrestling, just like any other sport, you have to pivot when there's an injury. It's going to be interesting where Nikki Bella goes moving forward too, as we get closer to Evolution and we haven't had a chance to really talk about it, but Nikki Bella being back in the fold in the women's division in the WWE.
I mean, with Nikki, you can just see she did her appearance at Rumble, and it was like one of the most socially engaged
Yep.
things on the entire event. She was at the Netflix event. She was at Netflix the night that we debuted on Netflix. It was one of the most socially engaged moments of the entire event. And then she comes back, debuts on Raw, and has that interaction with Liv Morgan. It was the most socially engaged thing on the show. And that was a stacked show. That was a show with Ron Killings, with Cena, with Punk, with Rhea, with like there was tons of great, strong characters on that show, but Nikki, it just shows you, and yes, I'm biased because I love the Bellas and I'm close friends with them and I'm very biased, but from a numbers standpoint, let's just look at it from a numbers standpoint. Numbers don't lie. people tuned in to see what she was going to say, and she's just, she's got one of the largest social media followings in the entire company. And I love that because she's a woman and she started from ground zero. She's not just an overnight success story. The Bellas started in, 2007. They started the same year that I did. And they, of course they've taken breaks from WWE and they've had
Mhm.
families and this and that, but it just shows you that our audience is very special. They're very much ride or die. And the thing with the Bellas, especially Nikki, is that whether you like her or whether you don't like her, you are watching her. You are watching to see what she's going to say. You are watching to see what she's going to do. And even in the face of like adversity, she went through a lot this year with her divorce. Of course, nobody wants to go through a divorce. It's embarrassing. It's hard to watch. It's hard to see headlines, this, that, and everything else. But what I love about Nikki is that she just takes everything head on. Like, you know what? It is what it is, and I'm not going to run from it. I love that about her, and I think the audience wants to see more of her.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say that because you're right. She was in the headlines a lot, and this has always been interesting to me. So I'd love to get your take on it. Like in the promo battle between Liv and Nikki, Liv kind of went there, mentioning the divorce. Like I always wonder, like when you're in that mindset and you're doing those promos, like you know is there places that maybe you shouldn't go or things that maybe is a little bit too much because hey there's people's feelings on the line there and there's a lot of raw feelings as well, but it also makes for good TV. It makes the audience go ooh when they hear something like that. Is there a line sometimes that you don't cross?
Well, here's the thing. The one thing I know about Nikki is that she is all for what is going to make a great story. So when I was in a program with her in 2016, I think it was a Falls Count Anywhere match that we had. We were in a big storyline together. I was the bad guy. And she was very much about like, let's just do what's going to get the most attention. Let's do what's biggest for the story. So she was having me dive into stuff she was saying, if you want to go here, if you want to go, it's up to you. But like, and I love that because at the time she and John Cena were still together. So, and she was like, whatever is going to make for the best story because I want people to get excited when they watch our match. To me, Liv Morgan needed to go where she went. And Nikki didn't take it personal. Nikki's like, if it's going to make people want to pay to watch our match, that's what I say to people all the time. Whether you're training with me at my ring in an old warehouse with no air conditioning, or whether you're performing in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania, what are you going to do to contribute to the story to help? Like, people are parting with their money to watch you. How are you going to make the story interesting? And so when Liv went there about Nikki's personal life and not having a man and this and that, it just made the story interesting. It made me want to see Nikki beat Liv's ass. And so now I'm sold on the story. And I think that's why it was so socially engaged. I mean, listen, you had R-Truth on the show, you had CM Punk, you had John Cena, you had Rhea Ripley, you had all these power players on the show, and people were the most engaged like with that because it was
Yep.
so personal. It was personal. It was personal. And I think it could have been a little real, but they needed it. They needed it for the story.